you know, we're Italian Americans. Food's very important to us.
It's very important. We should be eating while we do these interviews. We should have. Hi, I'm Vinny Corbo, publisher at Volossal Publishing, and I'm here again with Catherine Gigante-Brown. We're going to be talking about her 6th book, and so why don't you tell us the name of it?
It is called Paul and Carol Go to Guatemala. And we went through a lot with the title, Vinny. You know that. It was really difficult to get a title that really described it. We went back and forth, and I love that you gave me ownership. And because a lot of publishers would say, like, they would just give it a title and that was it. But we just went back and we must have had about 25, 30 titles.
Yeah, at least 25, 30. And everybody pitched in. You and Jackie, me, Peter.
Yes.
Titles are important, and sometimes something simple works out. You know, the theories of Bauhaus. When you mentioned a title, the book you wrote with my wife 30-something years ago, when the German version came out, they changed the title and the cover.
Yeah.
Without consulting anybody.
Exactly.
So that's one of the frustrations with major publishers is you relinquish a lot of control and, you know, especially creative control. We started with the title. Let's go to the cover and talk about, again, we did, like with any book that we publish, we do lots of covers and cover options and usually go with the one that's the best. Better Than Sisters, I think I made like 10, right? Like
you did, and it was like too much choice. It was like the kid who you have to say, like, do you want like apples or candy? You know, and I was like, I don't know, there are too many. But this one, I had the idea to do a bunch of objects like a passport and a photograph maybe. And you said, well, how about fabrics? And you sent me to Shutterstock and you said, look at Guatemalan fabrics. And a lot of them were not Guatemalan that came up. You know, they're like, oh, you look at it and it's Mexican or it's African. And the one, I chose a few, and you and your team just looked at what would look best with copy behind it. And you gave me a few choices, but this one popped. This one was like, it just, to me and to you, it said Guatemala. And so
from a distance.
Yes.
Yeah, even from a distance.
It did. And then I went and looked in my drawer and I had a set of a tablecloth that looked almost exactly like it. So that kind of solidified it.
And when you have that many colors, to try to force a color into the text is virtually impossible without looking tacky, is why we went with the white title text. And also angling the fabric lines seemed to give it more energy and more power.
And it is kind of a crazy story, and it is like really energetic. And I think the cover reflects that. And you chose a really fun type as well.
Yeah, it is. It's a thrill ride, right? How would you describe this book?
It is. It describes a couple's journey through Guatemala in the 1990s, in the tail end of its civil war. And it's very rustic, and it's some people's nightmare. Like your wife Jackie was like, there are bugs, and there's no room service, and there's like it was really, really gritty at points. And and it's at the beginning of a couple's relationship, and she is really trying to prove that she's tough and she's a trooper. And this, I think, for Paul, it was kind of her proving ground. Like, if she could make it through this, you know, she's a good partner. You know, it's okay if you're in Brooklyn and there's taxi cabs and all kinds of stuff. Well, what happens when you are riding on a chicken bus with machetes, you know?
Or stuck. Yeah, I don't want to give it away, but like, stuck in some compromising and what I would consider life-risking situations.
Right. Like, what happens when she's climbing an active volcano with you?
Yeah, climbing an active volcanoes, stuck in confined spaces. It's pretty intense. Um, and one thing, you've been married yourself how many years now?
26.
26. And as
Yes.
we're a little bit more than that. Um, but what I tell my friends that are getting married is that the thing is you're just gonna, I guarantee you, bad stuff's coming.
Hmm.
Like it just is. And it's really about how you can weather those bad things,
Right.
whether it's financial, health. I said, it's always say it's probably going to be something you never imagined was going to happen.
Hmm.
You wrote about a couple who was at a very interesting part in their relationship, basically on the edge of very, very serious because the couple started out years ago. It says that they kind of knew each other, but then this is it, and it's kind of at that tipping point. Are we going to be a serious couple, or is this going to either go the other way or just remain casual? And this really puts the couple to the test.
Right. I mean, they actually started out as casual friends, people who would meet at parties and kind of always liked each other. They would exchange books and talk about books, and there was always an attraction, but they were at a point in their lives when they were both single and they started a relationship, and they had both ended long term relationships and they weren't ready for a relationship. It was just really a booty call, and
Right.
it just turned into something more. So, and both of them, I think, are reluctant to admit how much they care for each other. And I think one of the messages in the book is just to say, just screw it, just go for it. Why are you hiding how you feel? Just, go for it and see what happens.
Throughout the book, there's sort of a running gag that Carol is carrying around a copy of Huck Finn.
Hmm.
Um, is there any significance to that choice of book? Why did you choose to use that book as the book she read?
Well, it's kind of a quintessential American book. And Hemingway said, that is like all American books all great American books stem from Huck Finn. And so she's taking this unwieldy, huge book with her on a trip, and where they each have only one bag each. And so it was like the quintessentially uh, cumbersome thing to carry around, and it could be symbolic of all the crap we carry around with us in life. And actually, the working title of the book, you remember, it was Huck Finn in Guatemala, but you were
Right.
like, and you brought out like, it doesn't really say what the book is about. People might think it's a treatise on Huck Finn and or something like that, but I think Paul and Carol Go to Guatemala just kind of nails it.
And I think the thing that I got, again, when we read something, or let's like a song, story, whatever, we take our own interpretation. So for me, whether you intended this or not, Huck Finn is a very much an American book,
Hmm.
and you were Americans in Guatemala.
Right.
So and it is a big, heavy book, and if you're going to be traveling, you probably might want to bring something a little lighter. You chose to have the book be a
Like
a
a
heavier book,
500 something page book. Yeah.
as if the person would have time during all that madness to read a
Right.
500-page book. Um,
And in the process of keeping her journal, because it's written journal style, day
right.
one, and so she's just keeping copious notes because she doesn't want to forget anything, and then she's lugging around Huck Finn. You know.
And then the third thing is that, and maybe again, I thought this is what you intended, that Huck Finn in and of itself is kind of a wild ride adventure.
Mm.
So the two sort of parallel one another. So that's why I thought it was an excellent choice to use that book as the book that was carried, throughout the entire story.
Thank you.
Formatting wise, this book is different than a typical novel and different than some of your other novels. And while you've experimented with other formats, I love the format of Different Drummer, where it's I don't think I've ever seen that done before, where it's journals and testimonials back and forth, and the
Right.
story comes out of that. This time you chose to make, instead of just writing the story like a novel, then they did this, then they did that, you chose to make it a journal format.
Mhm.
And I think that lends a real air of authenticity to it. Can you talk a little bit about what that process is like compared to writing, like, for example, the L or any of the L trilogies, which is straightforward novel writing?
Well, it's first person journal style, like you said, in the present tense. So I wanted it to have like an immediacy. I wanted it to be like you are there. And so I think that really lends itself to the excitement and the quality of things happening really, really fast. And also, I let myself just kind of uh, turn into Carol, if you will, and just let any kind of thing that came into my head go into the book. You know, like where she's doubting herself and she's second guessing herself, and like all of these things are in a book. Like, you know, if you've kept a diary, you don't really censor it. So I tried not to censor myself and keep it almost stream of consciousness. So I think that also gave it a very different feel. I have written in the first person before, but this really felt like, you know, it was a journal that maybe no one would see. And so she was just keeping all of her feelings in it and things that she felt about Paul and her fears. And so it really gave it for me the immediacy of first person confessional.
I feel that too. I think that you really captured that and captured the way a woman at that age might feel, and the what she might write in a journal.
Hmm.
Um, when I first considered doing Allison's book, the first one, she actually brought me her journal, and is insane. But there was so much brutal honesty in that, and I said, well, it's not really a complete story, but why can't we take stories from this and make them into short stories? And that's how that book materialized. I think there's something to be said for um, exploring the emotions and experiences that younger women have. And that's why, if you asked me to describe this book, I'd say it's a Judy Blume book for adults, or
Hmm.
adults in their 20s and 30s. I mean, everybody can enjoy it, obviously, but Judy Blume books usually capture, that younger age.
Right. And I loved Judy Blume books. So that's a compliment. Thank you. And I also think it's like Bridget Jones's Diary, but in Guatemala.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of, because she was like in that she was like brutally honest. She was doing all these crazy things like sliding down a fire pole and her skirt flies up, and like Carol is like just all these awful things happen. She chases after a bus screaming because she thinks they're stealing their bags. So like all this embarrassing stuff happens, and she just doesn't cover it up. It's like, well, this is what happened, so you know, so there.
There always is a certain element of rawness in all of your books. I mean, there's some gritty things happen, and this certainly has its fair share.
I think it does. Not to spoil anything, but
Right.
yeah,
But just
it
saying it,
is.
if you're a Kathy Brown fan, you will not be disappointed.
I don't think so. And you also said that this is my best book yet, and but I think you always say that. But thank you.
I like, again, it's as artists, and people always ask me what's your best album, and I always say the next one,
Hmm.
because it's, you just keep improving. And I hesitated to say, like, this is my favorite book you've ever written, but as anything, over the past, how many years have we been working together? It's a
I think
lot, like.
it's been like almost 10. It's been 2012. I think the L came out in the ebook. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've known
So we've
each
been
other
at
a
this
lot
10.
longer. Yeah.
Yeah, so but together we've been at this a while, and we're going to get better. I mean, everything, little things, right, even down to the gutter, adjusting we've come up with a wider gutter format. Um, we've worked on little things, just
Hmm.
graphically in the interior, just constantly refining as we go.
Right. This one uses photographs
Right. I was
on
going to bring that up. What?
in the dates, and I know that drove you a little crazy from a creative point of view, getting that right, and I just think it really has a beautiful look. It really does.
So this is the first book that you've included photographs in.
Right.
To me, it's a romance story. Again, it's a story
Mhm.
about a relationship, and Guatemala is the backdrop. But lend an air of authenticity, there's photographs of older photographs of Guatemala in
Mhm.
there to kind of. I thought that was a nice addition.
I thought so too, and you really realized it beautifully. You brought it,
Thanks.
and you never say to me like, what? We have to do picture. And there was a lot of like white space because of, I didn't care that, there were extra pages in it or anything. It had a certain look, and you really helped me realize my vision. And so I thank you for that.
I think you're always pushing yourself creatively, and it's kind of if you're gonna when you write your first novel, you're probably gonna stay right in that lane
Mhm.
of okay, I'm writing a novel, so I'm going to write a novel. But now that you're on novel 6, it's like, okay, how do I push myself? How do I explore new avenues to express myself? And I think that's what this is. And I felt when I read it, this one spoke to me even more than the other ones. And that's why I hesitate to say it's my favorite. It's my favorite. Again, I'm sure the next one will be my favorite then, but this one, it is really raw in certain things, just in the not in raw gritty, raw in just really letting somebody in on somebody's thoughts.
Mhm.
It's got some intense stuff in it.
Thank you. I tried for that.
Yes, you are very good. Throughout all 6 of your books, you have a running theme of food. And I know that you personally love to cook, and food is very important to you. This book's food is different than some of the other books' food. In the Paradiso family in the L series, the food is always, mouth watering, like, wow, you wish you were there eating it with them. Here, not so much.
Well, it's true. Guatemala is not known for its cuisine, although it does have really some wonderful restaurants, and it's different than people might assume. It's like Mexican food. And during the 90s, I mean, and now today, it was a very poor country. So it was very simple food. At one point, I think Carol says it's like pollo, pollo y más pollo. Chicken, chicken, and more chicken, and she was a vegetarian trying to stay vegetarian. At one point, she just is like, I'll just eat chicken because I'm starving. And and you're getting food from, people have them in stuff in coolers and soda in a plastic bag because the glass is too expensive to recycle, and you're buying stuff out of bus windows, and you don't know where it came from, the tamales. And so it is very different. It's a really completely different kind of food and eating. But food is, we're Italian Americans. Food's very important to us.
It's very
Yeah.
important. We should be eating while we do these interviews. We should have. Now that COVID is over, or more or less over, do you anticipate? Well, I know you're going to do some Zoom readings, but do you
Mhm.
anticipate doing any live readings?
I would love to. I think a lot of the bookstores are very slow at getting back to live readings. They were doing things outside, so that was cool. But now, it's November in New York,
Mhm.
so it's getting a little cold. So I would love to be doing some readings in bookstores, both upstate and downstate in Brooklyn. So any bookstores listening to this, I am available. So yeah, I love the back and forth, and I also think for people who haven't been traveling very much because of the pandemic, or maybe you're a little scared to start traveling, this is a great chance to travel, to go to Guatemala, and it's safe, So it's a good trip.
My wife and I said, "Great, we've experienced Guatemala, and we never have to go."
Really. I actually would love to go back and do some readings there, but the COVID numbers are really high in a
Yeah.
lot of Central American countries, and Guatemala, unfortunately, is one of them. They're slow to get the vaccines, so but I would love to go back there.
When you do live readings, one of your MOs is to bring food, which I
Hmm.
love because we have the South Park joke: more people will come if there's punch and pie,
Right.
and you certainly have honed in on that. Are you going to be bringing crappier food? Because the kids in the Guatemalan experiences, everybody gets diarrhea after they're eating. What's the plan?
That was only one day in like 3 weeks, but um, I'm thinking I'm going to try to find like a traditional Guatemalan cookie. That might be safe to do
Okay.
cookies. Everybody likes the cookies.
It's interesting you say that because that's what we're going to be doing for the kids party for the special needs kids. We usually
Oh,
give out, we usually do food, but we can't do food, so we're going to bake cookies.
oh, nice.
So yeah, I say cookies are safe.
They are.
They seem safe. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think cookies will be. Is there a Guatemalan cookie?
Not that I know of. I have to do some research, but I'll find something.
Okay.
Give out avocados. I don't know.
This book is a little bit different,
Hmm.
and maybe you do something that's a little bit different that way too, just to underline that. Even the back cover, we've been ghosting back images
Hmm.
on the back cover. On I guess it's Bells of Brooklyn. We have the woman on the back,
Right, my great
and we sort of
grandmother. Yes.
ghosted that back. Um, and this one we did the same thing with I guess the map of Guatemala. Is that what we
I
did?
think it was actually the visa,
Oh, the
Guatemalan
visa,
visa
right,
around that
Guatemala, yeah.
time. Yes.
So that's kind of another cool thing we've been doing. So tell me about why you chose the dimensions and proportion of this book. It's a novel, but you did not choose to make it standard 5 by 8 novel size.
Right,
We went
right.
with 6 by 9.
Yes. We went by that size because it was more like a traditional journal size. And Different Drummer was also the same size, and Better Than Sisters was also the same size. But the other three, the L trilogy, were more traditional, smaller novel size. But we thought it was more, it kind of spoke to it being a journal. So, and I think that works.
Right, in a journal, when you buy a journal, usually they're about those sizes.
Hmm.
Right, so different drummer and this both have a journal feel.
Right,
The reason we Better Than Sisters, the reason we went 6 by 9 also is because we were sort of looking to go into the young readers
right.
category.
I really welcome doing things in a new format. I've done a Google Classroom talk with a seventh grade class about Better Than Sisters. And I actually got to give them homework and a reading assignment and a writing assignment. So I really welcome kind of teaching and bringing the book to people in different ways. So I welcome doing any type of addressing classrooms or something like that electronically, or if it's in the New York area or upstate New York, if you're studying Guatemala, I would love to do something like that because it really opens it up to a whole new audience, and it's just fun to exchange ideas with people in a different format that you really wouldn't imagine.
I'm sure there's some English teachers that would like to have you in there to talk about the writing process and how to put together a book.
Right.
Um, Oftentimes, I deal with writers, and you're trying to explain. Well, a lot of times I always say, just don't start writing. Yes, you can put down ideas, but you really don't start writing a book by just starting at the beginning and writing all the way through to the end. You need to outline, you need to create acts, you need to have beats within it. It
Hmm.
needs to go up and down. It's There's a lot to it, and if you start, with an outline, it's easy then to start filling in the spots as opposed to just going straight on through.
Exactly. Right.
What's next after this?
Well, I'm working on a couple of things. I'm working on sort of a murder mystery, playing around with that, and then I put it aside. I'm working on a sci-fi book which is a manuscript that I found that I wrote probably 35 years ago. And so it's a post apocalyptic book, and I'm playing around with that now. But I have a few things I'm juggling around with.
When you look at something you wrote 35 years ago, I'm sure you're critical of what you know, what's that like to, you know, having the skill set that you have now compared to the one you had 35 years ago, which was substantial then,
Mhm.
but 35 years of experience. What's it like to see your older things? Is it?
Well, I looked at it and I said, like, if this sucks, I won't do anything with it. But I looked at the first page and I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty interesting. I definitely was a lot more raw. And I learned a lot in 35 years just from writing and from being in business and for doing corporate writing and just keeping it concise. And so I did learn a lot, but it didn't suck too bad. It just sucked a little.
Well, you can, you know, now you have the ability, well, you have something to work from and then punch it up,
Right.
obviously. Of course, we can find this book on Amazon is the fastest place to find it.
Mhm.
You could go to the Volossal website. I'll have links from there. And your Facebook page.
Yes.
There's a Facebook page for it, and there's your own personal Facebook. Uh, what is it, Catherine Brown writer? What is it?
Catherine Gigante-Brown, author. Yes.
Author,
And you can also get it from your local little bookstore. So that.
which is always a cool thing to go in and say, we could you order this for me? Sometimes they'll have them, and sometimes but they get them fast. For those who don't know, we're distributed by Ingram, and they are the largest distributor in the world. And you can buy this book anywhere in the world, pretty much. I mean, literally in Italy, you could walk into a bookstore in Italy and say, I would like this book, and they'll have it in 2 days. Very fast. Ingram is they have printing places all over. It's remarkable. And of course,
Right.
the ebook version is also available, so you could just zap it onto your iPad or your Kindle or whatever anytime
Right.
you want.
You get that immediately. I mean, I've had some people, we came out on October 25th, 2021. I had some people who ordered it immediately, got the book, and by that Friday were finished reading it and told me they loved it. And people are sending me pictures like, look what came in the mail today. So it's really cool. We're posting that up on the Facebook page. It's
Okay.
nice that people are excited about it.
Well, you've definitely generated your fan base. I mean, you've definitely generated a following of people who clearly really enjoy your work, and
Thank
that's
you.
cool.
I'd love to reach more people though. I mean, I'd love people say, "Can't you, get it on Oprah's books and or Jenna, Jenna Bush has her page and Hello Sunshine. There's a page where, it's a really great book review site where you have people all over the country and all over the world reading the same book, but it's really hard for a small potatoes guy like us to get
Yeah.
recognized.
Well, it's staggering. I'm sure you've been to the book. Uh, I would call it the convention that they have in New York, and it's
Mhm.
in the convention center. It's 4 floors of book publishers and distributors. It's overwhelming, and when you go to their tables and you just see thousands and thousands of books that come out every week and every
Mhm.
month, the odds are just it's ridiculous. It's the odds are against you, and but you can't do it for that reason. You have to do it for the art, and that's why Velocil's slogan is where books are works of art, because we spend, especially you and I, an exorbitant amount of time making sure these are as perfect as we can get them.
Right. I mean, I've had friends who said, "Oh, my publisher only sends me proof twice," and you don't have a limit. You send it until we get it right, or as right as we can. We just go for it, and I love that
And
about
yeah, I do that with you, and as most of the people. In fact, the first children's book, um, Volossal put out, we put it out, and then we got it and we looked at it, and the illustrator said, you know, would it be possible to to fix this illustration, that illustration? And I said, sure, let's do it. Let's reissue it. So I want to thank Catherine Gigante-Brown for coming on again and spending some time with us. It's always fun to hear about, your process. You're definitely one of the inspirational writers to me, and I'm sure to a lot of other people who, who think about writing. I think about writing a book, and then you just make it look like so much fun. And this one, it is. It's a thrill ride. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Okay, so go visit Volossal.com and go visit Catherine's pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Amazon, and I will put links and you can check them out.